Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us to explore the topic of how to achieve critical successes with DASA DevOps fundamentals. I'm sorry about the background noise. I don't know where that's coming from. Please understand that this webinar is comprised of components from a two-day course of DASA DevOps fundamentals. This course itself is full of robust topics and discussions. DASA DevOps Fundamentals is considered to be an absolute necessity when it comes to people and organizations working in a DevOps environment. Next slide, please. So today, our presenters will be Anis Ben Hamiden and Sakil Malinga. Anis is a DevOps coach and a trainer who believes in empowering teams to achieve their quality goals in a targeted and efficient manner. With over 2 decades of experience, Anis supports his team by identifying the appropriate methods, practices, and the tools to fulfill the goals that comes to him. Sakil, on the other hand, is also a DevOps trainer and also a portfolio manager. He comes with extensive experience in fintech and retail digital ecosystems. He caters to the top 10 companies in Africa and assists them with their digital transformations. Today, the speakers will be speaking about DASA DevOps Fundamentals course, our principles, and they will give you a high-level overview of what should and what really goes on in a DevOps team. Over to you, Anis and Sakil.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and hope you're well and keeping well. So we're going to cover the main drivers and responsibilities for the emergence of DevOps and how it would help you in your environment. And you can go to the next slide. Next. Yeah, so IT and DevOps is quite an interesting environment. I think what's happening at the moment is an increase, especially with cloud migration, seeing people moving more to the cloud. There's definitely a big increase around the demand for DevOps engineers, and also just to build the right culture around DevOps in the entire world. What we're seeing with some of the guys that are moving to the cloud is that your team structures are changing. You need to be more focused around delivery with the right culture, experience, and tools. And based on this slide, we're seeing quite a heavy increase in also the financial rewards that DevOps engineers are getting into the market. And so it's a very significant career that someone can start off with. And although this is fundamentals, DASA has an entire career development path that we can assist you with. You can go to the next slide. So the history has always been, I think everyone has seen this across any organization. There's always some difficulty in the relationship between IT and the business. The business wants certain things, and IT's got its own technical and non-functional requirements that it needs to adhere to, making sure they can deliver on the right environment to their respective engineering versus business wanting value out of IT. You move to the next slide. So DevOps over a period of time, I know the slide is small, but I think you could find out over this in about 2007, a bunch of guys changed the DevOps environment by moving from, by identifying the difficulty of the translation between IT and business. And what came out of that is that infinite sign that is on top there. But what it basically means is that IT IT and business need to find a way of seamlessly delivering and offering new services and new services to customers. And then we can move to the next slide. And now we're going to go into what are the key concepts and principles around DevOps and how you could use this in a very effective and simple manner and be able to get value out of your customers, etc. Can move to the next slide. So, oh, sorry, one slide back. I think we jumped a slide. So I think here there's some core principles that are fundamental to DevOps that DASA is positioned in a very simple and effective way. One of them is that customer-centric action, creating with the end in mind, and end-to-end responsibility. So if I go back to the first one on customer-centricity, is that everything that you build as an organization should always come back to the core of why you're doing it, which is the customer. And whether that customer might be internal customer, external customer, that gives you the ability then to develop a product that is continuously evolving over a period of time. And then when you create something with the end in mind, you have a complete understanding of the customer's requirement, and you can see how it's going to look. I always say to people, if you can't see how it's going to look, you're probably not building the right thing. And the responsibility across the different areas within technology, IT, and product also offer that. And what also the core principles around here as well is that the cross-functional autonomous teams creates an environment where it's not pointing fingers, the IT, the business, and making things more internally focused. So it creates an environment which is more externally focused and creates that ability to deliver continuously. So when you deliver with that spirit and that culture that comes out of it, you then are able to deliver in a continuous manner, and you can automate everything that you can, which is another key principle. Now that makes you a very strong organization. Next slide. I think now we're going to go for the poll, and we'll give you a minute to go through the poll. Thank you for that. I think it's quite clear that putting the customer first is, continuous improvement is always is the most popular, and yeah, and then the second is customer centricity and automate everything. Yeah. Next, I'm assuming you got more technical people who are looking for the continuous flow of stuff. So we can move to the next slide there. So within the DASA, there's a competency framework which is covered by basically two main areas, which is the skills area and the knowledge areas. I think what attracted to me to DASA personally is the fact that it covers both the soft side and the part of basically the DevOps approach, and the DevOps creating the culture is as important as getting the right tools and executing on them. So you can move to the next slide. Yeah, so within these competency framework, there's things like if you look at the skills area, which is on the top right, the skills area covers things like courage, team building, DevOps leadership, continuous improvement. Those are fundamental skills that enable someone who's coming into the environment to learn and to be able to have the courage, have the skill level, and they can be able to tell where they are in terms of the proficiency. So they can either be a novice with an objective to grow their skill level to a master level within those respective things. And then within the knowledge areas as well, there's business value optimization, business analysis, architecture, programming, more I call them more the actual harder portion of the of getting them. Test specification, infrastructure engineering, security risk and compliance. That gives you a rounded view, and then based on your specialization, you could choose to grow certain skills. If you want to go into coaching, you might build up your DevOps leadership, for an example. So it gives you a complete, well-rounded opportunity to cover various aspects of your growth, but also to assess yourself where you are as you go along. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, so I've covered most of this. So if you look there in terms of based on your interest, so if you want to be a professional, so fundamentals is key because it gives you a grounding on all areas. So you got a rounded introduction to the entire environment. And then if you want to go into leadership or coaching, there is also certain aspects and key skills that you learn and derive from that. So the skills area and the knowledge areas give you the expected behavior knowledge, because then you've got all the capabilities to perform very well in a DevOps team. Can move to the next slide. And also, as I was saying earlier, that you could go, for example, if you could do your fundamentals and do your product owner training based on the fact that that's your interest, so that's your day job, or you could go for a DevOps leadership if you come from an executive perspective, or you could, but fundamentals gives you the foundation, and then the professional give you the knowledge and the ability to apply. So they call it lead and enable for leadership type training. And then for the professional, it gives you the ability to, for example, with create and deliver. It gives you those necessary skills in that area. But fundamentals is key because it gives you the basis of what you should be growing as an individual. Okay, moving to the next slide. So I'm going to hand over now to Anis, and he's going to take you through this section of the presentation. Anis? I think you're, just check if you're not on mute.
Anis, I believe you are on mute. No,
Yeah.
actually, you are not on mute, but we are unable to hear you. Can you please check your system sound?
Maybe we should just take the poll while he's joining, which is basically I think what we wanted to find out is what frameworks and methodologies are you using, and you can select one from that, and we'll come back and hopefully Anil will take over.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Sakil. Ooh, I love to see the percentages going up and down. Even in the previous poll, even though I didn't say anything, and I was like, I was waiting for people to give the same answer as I was, but you know.
Yeah, it is. Is Anil sorted? Oh. Anil, are you back online? Oh, so there's a Kanban, Scrum are popular. Non-waterfall, own adaptation. Yeah, cool. Okay, can we check if Anil is back? Otherwise, I'll run through his slides. Some of his.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Just a button. So thank you, Sakil, for making the next step. And first, hello to everybody from my side. Glad to discuss with you about DevOps in this webinar. So we see you are many of you are mainly using Kanban and Scrum. That's interesting. Or third part is something specific, as you said. So that's a good point. That's what we want to talk about in this part. What I want to talk about. What's the difference that makes DevOps to other methodologies? So have a look. Let's make a short historical journey and have a look at the different.
Lost you again, Anis.
Hi.
Where I can hear you now. We can hear you.
Something is muting me automatically. I don't know what, but anyway. So next slide. Hello.
Yeah, you now go.
Okay,
Yes.
so really hard. Something was muting me automatically. So anyway, next slide, please. Let's go a little bit faster and deal with all of these buzzwords that we know from the agile methodologies. So I think the first one we could talk, or where everything started, is maybe the Toyota production system. Next slide, please. I think it was the first step or the first idea or philosophy about going into this agile way, or about getting these things efficient and effective. It was about the 50s, 60s, where Toyota was fighting with bankruptcy, and then they introduced this huge system based of different principles, practices, philosophies, and methods that are still used until now. Something like the lean software development, or the lean way to do things, Kanban, and so on. And lean, for example, next slide, please. Yes, is one. Actually, we are talking, when we talk about lean, we talk about a mindset, about principles, about getting waste away from our work for everything we do. Let's focus on doing the things that are important and remove all kinds of weights. Let's see, are we pushing people to do more than what they can? It's this Muri idea. Are we overburdening them? And do we have any inconsistencies in our way of work? Let's remove inconsistency, because they cost a lot of time and they don't bring any value to the customer. So bringing the main idea is how to get the most of the customer value with minimum or zero waste and effort. And the same direction, we talk about Kanban. Next slide, please. For Agile, okay. When we talk about Agile, so most of the people think about the manifesto, the Agile manifesto, which has been done around the year of 2000, where this set of guys gathered and tried to write a manifesto to agree on what is Agile about. And you know that they defined the 4 rules and these 4 ideas of the Agile manifesto and the 12 principles around them. And mainly, I like, when I talk about Agile, I like the following citation. In the next slide, please. It's mainly about the possibility or the ability to adapt to change, because it's not about bringing the best quality in our work or making our product the best product, but it's the product who can adapt at most to the changing requirements. And in a world with growing complexity, it's the most important thing to be able to adapt to change. But when we talk about Agile, next slide, please. It's really important to focus that Agile is actually nothing as, when we talk about as a word, is actually an umbrella for all the methods we talked about, or we will see. And the focus is learning about the world we want to serve, learning about our competitors, learning about our customers, learning about our business, and developing good solutions for that and adapting those solutions. It is iterative, incremental to go there. And one important method for that, next slide, please, or one of the first methods that has been used is XP, extreme programming. It was mainly the time where the developers interacted directly with the customer. The developers sat together with the customer, asked him, and then they changed the solution. And from there evolved many methods and practices that we are still using until now. And I think we will be still using in this, the world of software development, like test-driven development, refactoring. User stories come from there. Collaboration between testing, development, and so on. It's all about this iterative learning, continuous improvement that we have there. Next slide, please. Scrum, one of the most known frameworks in the Agile world, but also maybe one of the frameworks which is most implemented in the wrong way. And what I personally like in Scrum is this cadency that is introduced, working in sprints, making reviews, inspecting and adapting the way of work, putting people together, putting all the experts together in a team, and then try to deliver in a regular frequency good or working software. That's the main idea about that. Next, please, next slide. Kanban. It's also a very powerful method. As we've seen, it actually came from the philosophy of the Toyota production system. And for me, Kanban is mainly, when we talk about the Kanban method, it's mainly about optimizing the flow of value or the flow of work, how to get it in an efficient and effective way. Most people know mainly the Kanban boards, where you try to to get things done early with rules like limited work in progress and such things. Next slide, please. Lean startup is also a very known method in the agile world, and it's mainly very early where we when it's about evaluating ideas, business ideas, how to check when I have a good idea for a product, how to validate and test that idea from a business perspective, if it is working, if the customers are accepting it. And that's where I see Lean startup. So next slide, please. And last but not least, the DevOps, that, as Sakil said before, came, I think it's almost 12, 13 years or 14 years where people are talking about DevOps. It started actually with a conflict between IT and development, yes, IT as operations and development. And for now, it's actually much more than that. When we put everything together, the next slide, please, we see that actually everything is related, and all the methods mainly are related to each other or evolve from each other, and they're not so different from that, because the most important thing is what they share. Next slide, please. And when we try to put all the things together, we see that they share these 5 principles or values, mainly about getting our work done in an efficient manner, how to optimize our work in that way. Customer centricity is a very important aspect. We focus on our customer needs, on their requirements, how they perceive things, what are the jobs they have to do, and they try to adapt our solutions based on that. Another aspect, which already came from the TPS framework or system, putting people in the centrum of the whole thing. It's about people, it's not about resources. Fourth principle, frequent delivery, because when we deliver frequently, we learn when we learn early and we get feedback early. Always when you delay things, then it gets more complicated. You get later feedback, and then it's not really effective. And actually, naturally, most important thing is the ability to respond to change. So that's what they share. And when we try to combine them, or the methods, how they interact. So next slide, please. I would say that DevOps actually, from the current perspective as it is seen in DASA, for instance, or I believe, or that's the way I see DevOps, it's not just about putting the ops experts and the developers together. It's actually about making the best of all the methods that there are out there, and then trying to focus to get value for the customer very fast and get feedback very fast and very early, and develop high-performance teams that are able to deliver such value in this complex world of software and the requirements. And you see something like the Lean principle, it's always there. It's something we have to live with and to accept and to deal with. And DevOps is actually putting everything together. I also like, when we see the next slide, I like also this representation of Mirko Henry from his book, DevOps for the Modern Enterprise, where he says actually DevOps is the next level of Agile, where Agile is mainly focusing on optimizing the processes and the collaboration, and DevOps and then Lean software development, they bring the tooling, the technologies in there, and then work in that way. So I recommend reading this book in this context. So that's it for my side. Next slide, I think. it's your part, Sakil, to talk about the business benefits of DevOps. And sorry for the hardware challenges I had, but it's part of it.
Thanks, Anis. And yeah, I think we'll just jump straight into it. We don't want to keep you guys long. The business benefits of DevOps. I think Anis has covered very well in terms of making sure you got a full end-to-end as we start in the beginning. Call out to say that everything, even the DevOps culture, as I call it, revolves around focusing on the customer. So this gives more time to innovate, because if you focus on the customer, one of the key aspects around that is to make sure that you can make mistakes and get feedback much quicker from the customer and invest in the right things. So in terms of your maintenance, your fixing of bugs, you prioritize it not based on who makes the most noise, but on what will help the customer the most. You can move to the next slide. And also, I think one of the key areas that I love the most about DevOps is that when we work in environments, we work with people. And the most important, most difficult thing when you go into an environment, you then get a label that says you work in IT, you work in security, you work in whatever area. And that creates obviously a functional either support or business facing capability. But what it doesn't do is it makes us very internally focused very quickly, because you start thinking about my area, your area, my people, your people. Whereas in the DevOps environment, if it's a high performing team, it brings the team together to one goal, and that goal most of the time should be to address the customer needs. So it breaks down the silos in organizations. Next slide. And then it also increases your collaboration and communication. I think that first slide that I had where the guys planning the thing, actually, that's what you want to remove. You want to get to a level where there's deep collaboration and a mindset in every division. I think one of the biggest transformation that can occur is when the business, because the business is not the same as in the 90s or earlier days where they had no idea what technology is. Most business people now have got a full understanding of what technology is, and they know probably slightly more sometimes than the technical people, but that could be dangerous. So when you move that and you expose them to the full capability of the technology, and the implications of the technology and how you execute on them, that makes sure that there's a high level of collaboration and communication between the teams, and any high performance team will have good experience and good health and good communication and collaboration. You can move to the next slide. And I think one of the key areas, and most of the technical guys, in terms of when you start in the presentation, I think the first point you indicated that continuous improvement is quite a very important area, and it usually is based on the audience. And sometimes when you come from a technical environment, CI/CD, I mean, companies now are doing multiple releases per day. Whereas in the past there was this big bang release where the business stops for 5 or 6 hours because there's a release that is happening, and this creates a pipeline which allows the teams to develop and integrate code seamlessly, and there's usually a journey to get to that level. But I think the process and the journey and the tools that you bring into the entire environment helps in confirming the objective, which comes back to being as close to the strategy of the business as possible by executing as quickly as possible. I mean, who would have thought that in a couple of years now we got legacy mobile apps, because people have gone for big bang releases, gone for a non-continuous way in terms of integrating automated testing and that related stuff. I think one area that excites me and I think about in this space is like in mobile testing. In the old days, you had one server in one room that you could test. Now, when you have to test for mobile phones, you got absolutely no control. There's so many phones out there, so many various changes that you could have bugs that you never thought of. So that automation makes it easier for you to do your mobile testing and any other testing that you would do to release more frequently. And move on to the next slide. And once a team is developed to a certain level, a certain degree, you obviously will be able to innovate more. Firstly, the first thing is that you will get to understand what the customer needs. And to start, I think one of the greatest stories about Apple for me is that everyone came up with certain phones where you could try and figure out how to put a keyboard onto a phone, because we had keyboards and we had phones, so they didn't dissociate it. And when Apple came out with a screen-driven phone, it was almost like they were so close to the customer that they could predict what the customer would want. So when you get the feedback loop constantly from the customer, you're able to predict what product they might want in the future, and that is then the area of innovation where you can then drive more and more innovative products. Because most of the time we're reacting to trying just to keep the systems going and compete with our competition. But when you're close to the customer and you got a super duper team, we call it, in our part of the world, is like a super team that can execute. You get your cadence right, then it gives you time to then start thinking of more innovation. Next slide. And yeah, I think I've covered this in terms of solving problems faster, because you're streamlining your processes and improving any efficiency. I think the lean approach always makes sure that you can always look at how to improve your efficiency, get rid of unnecessary wastage and everything around it. Next slide. Yeah, so I'm going to hand over back to Anis.
Thank you, Sakil. The last 2 points from my previous slides were, I think I share also, it's a very, very important innovation and problem-solving ability. It's one of great business benefits of DevOps. But in order to go there, you need to consider a lot of factors to be successful. DevOps is very cool, is very important, is very crucial, I think, for any company dealing with innovative products. But you have to consider some points in order to be successful in implementing DevOps. So first, let's have a look about your pain points. Next slide, or it's the poll actually. Can you share with us your current pain points relating to the software delivery process? Is it possible to see the results, Alisa or Coco?
I'll be able to see them.
Okay, great, thank you. So while you are writing your pain points, maybe a small point I add to the points of Sakil. Why is DevOps supporting innovation? Because actually the last point supports the point before, because we are dealing with smaller batches and delivery batches. it is no more so critical to deliver new things and to try new things. And this supports innovation, because it's not, if something goes wrong, then you can roll it back very easily, much easier than with huge releases. And in that way, your teams can try things out, and there nothing critical would happen if something goes wrong. Do you have first results?
No, not yet. Guys, if you want to put your answers, if you haven't already found it, please look for the chat panel on your GoToWebinar option, or the questions panel for that matter. And please put your answers there. Here we go. We got one, as a matter of fact. Let me read this. I'm sorry, because I'm half blind now. Age. Okay. Proper requirements are not being taken in, and softwares are being delivered which come back to the fail status. Does that make sense to you guys, Anis, Sakil?
The first part, but the second part I don't get it.
Both. Actually, this is just a one-liner.
So requirements is mainly always a problem. Specifying requirements, discussing about requirements, understanding requirements, dealing with the assumptions behind that. And then, so let's go further if you don't have any other points, because this matches the first point we want to talk about as a critical success factor. So please, the next slide.
There are more.
I got more, so go ahead.
You got more? I'm sorry. There are more coming in. You're going to have to answer all of these. Mustafa is saying test process. It just says test process. Mustafa, you might want to elaborate on the test process, what is happening. Anne is saying short deadlines, not allowing business users to do in-depth testing. And once we are in production, development team is gone. You want to pick that up?
Yes. Testing, very important activity, not only in Agile, or not only in DevOps, but mainly in Agile. One of the biggest problems many companies have is that they are dealing with testing as a separate activity beside the development or after the development. I think what should be is that testing activity, quality assurance activity should be part of the software development process. It's in DevOps, DASA or SAFe, we talk about built-in quality. So it's not about developing things and then checking their quality, but from the beginning, from the idea, actually thinking about testability, thinking about quality requirements, quality values, and how to measure them, how to put them, how to test them. We have testers working together with developers as part of the cross-functional team. That's a very important thing. Automating as good as possible, reducing the amount of manual testing, when you think about the agile testing pyramid, and so on. So we could talk days about this subject, but it's the main core. Sakil, I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, I think you covered it, but I also think it's fundamentally the culture of, the testers usually are pushed, and I think one part of the question was that, in a traditional waterfall environment, you finish the project, dump it to the next people, and then I think the question was more around when the people leave, and then there's and that's one of the key areas around DevOps, where it combines your testing process, continuous testing, the tools that you might need around there, and then also the ops portion. So when you build it, you own it. You don't build it and drop it to someone else. So it moves to a significant area, which is ITSM, which used to be like the operational side, and into almost the development side, bringing them closer together and making sure that testing is fundamental, because your test cases must actually be part of your user stories at the beginning, from the very beginning, customer facing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can go on here.
Other points, Lisa?
Yeah, 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 I have to sift through them. Mustafa has said he has presented another challenge. As a matter of fact, it is acceptance criteria for delivery objects.
Delivery of?
Delivery objects. Objects as in things.
Acceptance criteria. Yes, so acceptance criteria is a crucial part of the requirements. So I think most of people are working with user stories as a requirement practice, and the acceptance criteria is actually the scope defining the user story or your requirement. How would you agree with the product owner, with the business people, with the maybe if you have any people making tests after that, system integration test, something like that, that we say, okay, this thing is done. So it contains the business rules, very important thing. Don't ignore them. Talk about them in the refinements of the stories before starting the implementation. That's a very important thing. And also, when we talk about DevOps, it's actually bringing the requirements engineering processes, the testing processes, the development processes, bringing everything together, and then letting all these experts work together towards faster delivery, towards trying things out, and reducing handovers. It's very, very, very important. Collaboration, that's the rules about it.
I'm going to pick a last one up,
okay.
Actually, because we're going to run short of time. These will not stop. There are so many challenges. Must take the fundamentals course from Sakil or from Anis. The last one I'm going to pick up is for Bilal, that he does not have a QA in the team. Now what?
If we don't have a QA.
Yeah, he does not have a QA in the team. We don't have a QA in the team.
It's very simple. I worked in many projects where we don't have dedicated testers or dedicated QA people. The main idea, the idea is simple, but implementing it is not that simple, because quality is team responsibility. It is not a responsibility of one person, one expert in the team, or one person in a department. Team quality is the responsibility of the whole team, and the developers should have the mindset to take care of the quality of the delivery objects, automating the tests, discussing about the tasks. And I agree, and it is important to have people with special skills in quality assurance, because it is another mindset, it is another skill set. So it is always good to have such experts, necessary, but if you don't have such people, it's not an excuse to deliver bad quality. That's how I see it. Sakil, you can add if you want.
Yeah, and I think also, we always look at quality from multiple angles. But if you go back to what is a quality product, is a quality product based on its functionality, must do what it's supposed to do. So linking your quality with your requirement is very, very important. And then the second part is that also from a technical perspective, making sure that whatever you're building, your architectural runway needs to be integrated into the fabric of what you're delivering on. So once you've got your architecture sorted and you know that you're building something that functional and non-functional requirements are met, and the testing is integrated into the team, the specialization of a test person within that, by the nature of it being a strong, very analytical skill that it is. So in a typical team of say 8, team members, one of them should have that strong specialization, my belief, to execute well. But it's not his role to produce a quality product. It's the team's responsibility to produce quality. And then also what you need to look at is whatever way you organize yourself is to make sure that you reduce technical debt over a period of time. I think the biggest monster is that once you get your cadence going and you're delivering projects, it's hard for the business to consider the fact that technical debt or some things that were left behind, the technical runway is not catered for. So they always want more and more features, whereas you need to go back and say, from an engineering perspective, sometimes we forget that IT is engineering. From an engineering perspective, are we doing the right things to deliver the right products? So yes, that's yeah.
Thank you. So let's share some recommendations from myself or from us that you should also consider in getting your DevOps implementation successful. So next slide, please. So one important thing, start right. And start right means agree on the goals of your work. So and goals means you have to talk with stakeholders, you have to identify your stakeholders, who are they, prioritize the goals with them, get support from and commitment from management to do things, to change things, to try things out, and communicate in the right way with your stakeholders. And don't forget, each stakeholders are interested in different information, in different updates and different formats. So consider that. That's very, very important, because all the rest will depend on this. Next slide, please. Second point is measure things. As you know, Peter Drucker said, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it, you cannot manage it. So identify the right KPIs and track them. It's very important. And if possible, automate such reports, because that's a lean way of working. And don't be afraid of showing things. Transparency is a core value in Agile. So show things, show problems, talk with people. Don't be afraid from such things. And the general rule, inspect and adapt. There is no final decision, always based on changing things, on learnings from such KPIs. Adapt your processes, adapt your decisions. Next slide, please. Provide a supporting and enabling culture for your people. So you cannot, actually you are pushing with the DevOps journey, you are pushing the people towards performance, high performance, innovation, creativity, and this does not work when the culture does not support this. Culture, it's strategy for breakfast, you know that. So work on establishing a lean mindset, work on establishing an agile mindset. Never ever punish your people when they make failures, because who does not make failures cannot learn, cannot get better. Work on enabling trust between the people, between management and development, between development, each other, developers and tester, operations, IT, and so on. That's very, very important point. And establish a people-first mindset. So stop talking about resources and about people as resources and sharing resources. And this person working 55% in that project and 30% in those. People are not resources. You cannot share them and move them this way. So consider that, please. Next slide. Feedback, feedback, feedback. In order to improve, you need to check that the assumptions we use are right. We check that the decisions you have made brought the expected outputs, outcomes, and impacts. And for that, you need to establish feedback on different levels. Here are some examples from second-based feedback with DDD, pair programming, to daily reviews, customer surveys. and establish also a feedback culture between the people, between the teams, between the management and the people. The manager would get feedback for their people, from their people, and so on. And automate and visualize reporting. That's very, very important. Next slide, please. Empower your teams for autonomy. So in order to have DevOps working, you need autonomous, or the goal would be having autonomous teams, so not autark teams, but autonomous. That means teams that are able to decide and to deliver. But this does not work if those people do not have all they need to do that. So they need some room of freedom, a room of decision possibilities that you have to give them. And on the other side, the team should be able or should accept and willing to take over responsibility for such things. So it's both sides, and support your teams to get the needed skills for that. Provide them with the tools, with the time, with everything they need to go there, and trust them and give them time to go there. We are mainly, when you're talking about the DevOps change or DevOps transformation, it's a cultural change, it's a responsibility change. So that's such things does not go from in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It needs time, so give them that time. That's very important. Next slide, please. Automation, you know, the CALM's abbreviation about DevOps culture, automation, lean, and so on. And automation is important because automation helps people to focus on their expertise. Automation replaces any manual step that does not need creativity, from my point of view. So that's why automation is not a replacement for people, but it's an enhancement and enables people to do the thing that they can and best, and that's creative work. But still, having tools and having frameworks does not mean that you have the solution. A fool with a tool is still a fool, so think about that. Next slide, please. Last but not least, a DevOps transformation is not a project in the classical way that it has a beginning and an end. A DevOps transformation is a journey. I like this word. Actually, it never ends because we're talking about continuous improvement. And at the time when you say we don't need any improvement, so actually we have lost already, because the world outside does not stop. It continues changing, and others get better. So it is a strive for high performance, a strive for excellence, and it's a continuous project. Don't forget that, and keep that in mind and work on that basis. So that was a fast recommendation journey. And let's go to the last part of the webinar. How does the DevOps fundamentals can help you achieve more and faster? Sakil.
Yeah, I think you can move straight to the next slide. Yeah, I think we've covered most of this, and this is where, depending on where you are in your career, but I think it actually helps quite well. And we'll cover this section jointly with Anis. It's just basically get your fundamentals, get the whole framework, get the whole going, because it actually helps, even if you've been in the industry for long, to get your thinking to move from current to the future way of working. I really like Anil's slide where it shows that we've gone through the agile phase to move on to the DevOps phase in terms of delivery. Waterfall served us very well, but we need to move our thinking in terms of delivery into a next level of thinking. Yeah. Anil, is there anything you want to mention here that's specific?
No, we can go to the next. Thank you. I'm going to the next slide, I think. So I think this scan or this competence model is a very powerful, simple but powerful tool to identify, okay, where are you as a company, or on an individual level, how are the skills of your experts? It's good orientation to know, okay, where can we improve? Are there any fields of improvement for us as a company or as an individual? It is based on the different skills and knowledge areas defined by DASA. We recommend, for example, to take the DASA DevOps scan to see quickly where you are. Next slide, please. Again, because I think we've talked about this. Just take the scan and see, okay, where are the points that you can optimize, and we recommend starting. I'm sure every organization has points for improvement, and I think a good starting point is the DASA DevOps Fundamentals course or training. It's aimed for all experts, and then when you have that, you can then decide, okay, I want to focus on the product ownership, or I have to focus on managing the whole process and the teams, or on the development, or on a coaching level or leadership level. You can then make the different specializations. So we recommend participating and starting with the DASA DevOps training. Our dates for that, I think, are on the next slide. So
yeah, just to add on the competency, if they can take the QR code, it does help quite a lot. It does put everything into perspective. Yeah. I think Aliza wanted to join us in this one. Or is it the last one? Okay.
Thank you very much. If you guys have questions, please add your questions again to the question panel, and I will be able to pick them up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sakil, for taking the time out today and discussing those important topics. I wanted you all to go through Sakil's and Anis's schedules. Sakil comes from Alex, that is South Africa, and he is offering the DASA DevOps Fundamentals course on October of this year, which is like upcoming next month. You have the QR code over there. If you scan that code with your phone, it would take you straight away to the page where you will be able to enroll for the course. Put in a little bit of information, some time with us, and we can discuss this even further. Anis's course, on the other hand, which was for September 22nd, now closed for registration. And the new dates for the upcoming course, the next course, are going to be November 24th and 25th. Again, as a 2-day course, we will be providing this. You have an option. If you want this course to be delivered in German, great. If you want it to be delivered in English, great. And if you want Anis to learn another language for you, I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to do that. Right, Anis?
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. With this, I would like to thank you all. We don't have any questions as of now. But Coco, can you move to next, please? All right. So how to sign up for this course? You can simply just scan that QR code from the slide before this one. Or you could just contact us, send me an email at learning@devopsagileskills.org. As you can see, it's on our screen. You would see a form, fill out your information on the form, and we will be able to align you with either Sakil's or Anis's course. Since you have the dates already, it is entirely up to you which date you want to choose. You will be aligned with that particular course. Get in touch with us, book a call with us, book a meeting with us. When you receive the email, I know you glance through the email and sometimes you do not book a meeting. And if we do not book a meeting, we will not know how to get in touch with you and how to take you to the next steps of signing up for the course. So with this, I would like to thank you all again. Sorry we went over the time, and hopefully we will be able to see you participating in either of these courses. Looking forward to speaking with you soon, and you guys have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to seeing you shortly.
And thanks for the public. Thank you. Have a nice day or evening. Goodbye.